Hi all and welcome to part 2. This is part 2 of our end of year review 2023. Now in part 1 we covered the must listen to shows and the impact of THI on that level, and in this part we covered the extensive and extraordinary work done by our members in this past year. So many new things this year, as we will find out. This is the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Enjoy the show. The main event which spawned many new things this year was the blueprint. Revamps from the first run done in October of last year, with a broader viewpoint added to the solutions and much more complete and rounded presentation of it back in March and April. And this then went on to creating many new working groups all around the banner of the new blueprint for humanity. And I for one am immensely proud of it, given it was many decades in the making for me. It was something I knew early on in my life, that life and the operations of it just didn't feel right. Even before the advent of the internet, it became clear to me this world is upside down and also backwards. 3 decades of internet confirmed every suspicion I had, and that this world is messed up. That doesn't require minor tweaks here and there, but radical solutions that requires a 180 on all operations of this planet. Sadly, throughout the whole of alt media, we are the only group who came up with the solutions and wrote them down and produced a stunning book packed with details, where it goes wrong and how we can all fix it. The book encompasses everybody and tasks everybody to come together in an adult, common sense based way. Division and compartmentalising has worked for no one. Together and total transparency is the way forward. The 3 shows done by myself and selected members in March and April this year will live long in the memory, and the frequencies of which we still carry forward to this day. The first of the blueprint updates, well, it's not an update, it's a review of this year, is the Law Team report. And in 2023, the Law Group continued to share the Ucadia Introduction to Law course with a series of monthly Zooms between January and June. I guess Roger took time off from July to December. Perhaps not. And the topics covered were testimony and evidence, jurisdiction and inquisition, fraud and debt, violation and remedy in law, or volition, and wills and testaments, the occult fundamentals of law, sacraments of baptism, salvation and penance, and how modern courts operate. And these topics all built upon the fundamental building blocks of law, trusts, estates, persons, corporations and funds studied in 2022. And he said, if we do not understand these essential components, we cannot understand how the illegal bar legal system is administered. If we think of law as a house, the roof is built of admiralty, maritime, merchant, contract law, and also UCC, Universal Commercial Code. Now, the UCC is a set of private, corporate codes and regulations which are not law. The walls of the house that hold up the roof are built of trust law. The foundation on which the walls and the roof rest is ecclesiastical, Talmudic law. Most law groups on the internet focus mostly on UCC, Admiralty, Maritime, Merchant and Contract Law. The challenge with this approach is that law is hierarchical. Just as a child is created by a parent, a corporation is created from an estate. An estate is created from a trust, and a trust contains limited rights transferred by a grantor. Thus, when we choose to use their private rules and regulations, we give implied consent to their jurisdiction. We consent to their corporate codes, which are inferior to universal natural law. We voluntarily gave up our power as a living man or woman and exchange our natural rights for their privileges. In the blueprint, we have adopted the Euclidean model, which enables us to step out of their bar jurisdictions. Bar, for those who don't know, means British Accreditation Registry. British, not American. And remain in our jurisdiction with a foundation of universal natural law and the natural rights of a living man or woman conveyed when we incarnate here. And these rights are the highest rights we can claim. To prove that ecclesiastical law is the foundation, we need to know what is a trust. A trust is a fictional form of relations and agreement whereby certain form, rights and obligations are lawfully conveyed by a grantor, trustor, to the control of one or more persons through an oath of office of the trustee, to manage such property in accordance with the will and intentions of the grantor, trustor, for the benefit of one or more persons. Now the key word to that last sentence is office. An office is an ecclesiastical term defined as a sacred, movable or immovable space or place, formed upon the performance of one or more oaths or vows and sacraments. A man or woman who occupies an office is called an officer. The original meaning of the word office is derived from Latin officium, and the Roman traditions of ecclesiastical and ceremonial duty and service when in possession of some sacred, circumscribed space. Hence, an office of a trustee is an ecclesiastical position. All about the church again. And this clearly shows that the foundation of law is ecclesiastical, as an ecclesiastical officer, a trustee, and administrators of the law, their law. Now, the intro series topics we explored in 2023 continue to show how the fundamentals of trust law are applied in real life. We also learned how ecclesiastical sacraments, such as the sacrament of penance, form the underlying structure of how a court functions. Testimony and evidence focused on how powerful our voice and our own testimony is. When we can take control of our voice and testimony, we can overcome a sense of helplessness when we are dealing with the bar system. In jurisdiction and inquisition, we reviewed some key concepts, then learned that when dealing with the police, they have 3 objectives. 1 to club you over the skull, 1 to club you in the face, and 1 to club you across the back of the legs. Oh no, that's not it, sorry. Anyway, to obtain a confession, apart from any incriminating evidence, to try and get contractual agreements in place for accepting any charges or liability, and to discredit any future possible appeal or arguments of defence by exposing inconsistencies and falsities. Now, assuming we proceed to court, the section on jurisdiction helped us understand how to challenge the authority of a forum to administer justice and the authority of the jurist to sit, hear and interpret the law. In fraud and debt, we focused on the notion of fraud and the concept of debt, the function of fraud trusts and why the present legal system cannot avoid the truth of these concepts. We also learned about appearance, what is really going on through presumed consent, and how we can use a notice of appearance to overcome these issues. In the final section of the series, we reviewed volition, remedy and law. We gained an understanding of how free will is such a fundamental component of law and the claimed operation of the present legal system. If we haven't got a clear picture in our minds of what volition, free will is and is not, plus how it works, then it is impossible to reasonably describe the very nature of different contracts and how they may or may not be dissolved, altered or revoked. It took us well over a year to deliver the 13-part Introduction to Law series, and this series provides us with enough fundamentals of law for us to see that there is no proper rule of law in the present Western system, and how we are trapped in organised criminal networks masquerading as democracies that promise a degree of comfort for those in good favour or prepared to sell their souls. We added 2 additional presentations to the law series as we wanted to take a deeper dive into some of the ecclesiastical concepts that underpin all law in the Western system. Wills and testaments took us on a 400-year journey, a deep understanding of the sesquiquavice trusts that are created at birth, how we are declared legally dead at birth, how a fiction called a person is created with limited rights, then salvaged and made collateral for the debt money system. We discovered how all wills are intestate, meaning they are always in controversy, giving the court's final say as to how the assets are managed before the heirs and successors review any inheritance. In the sacraments of penance, baptism and confession, we learned how these 3 sacraments are central to how the courts and the debt banking systems operate. How we've been tricked into thinking we are born in sin, which is debt. Therefore, our souls need to be saved, salvaged, and through self-confession and a life of suffering and penance, we can earn God's grace to enter the kingdom of heaven via the Vatican. And it is the abhorrent notion of original sin that leads to indulgences, that binds us to a lifetime of debt repayment, that underpins the current creation of money and the modern financial system. We also learn that every court case is the sacrament of penance and self-confession in operation, who or what a judge is and how we give up all our rights when we use an attorney in their system. In March 2023, we shared a presentation on the fundamentals of law in Farmington, New Mexico with the THI Village. It was well received, inspired some great conversation and questions and a few aha moments. In July, Roger and Thomas appeared on a UK podcast to talk about law and many other THI topics as it transpired. We had a great time with this, worked well together, and left the host completely flabbergasted by the amount and depth of information we shared in the 3-hour interview. What was fascinating was how little knowledge the host had in these subjects, yet he has a sizable audience. In summary, we covered a lot of ground in 2023. Many who participated in the Zooms were inspired, and we had some great conversations during the presentations. We have all come to realise there are no shortcuts. Just as in Rita Law and the golden path shared in the Vedas shows, when it comes to self-development and competence in law, you must do the work. Studying the Ukadian material over the past 4 years has validated much of what THI has taught us. It also triggers our junk DNA, which is not junk, but contains a vast database of knowledge. And as we trigger this database, we find much of this knowledge resides within. It is a high-frequency information. And as we use etymology to deconstruct words that are occult in meaning and low in frequency, we find high-frequency roots of the words in their original and true meanings. And this helps to open and free our minds. And the purpose of the THI Universal Law Group is to help those who choose to be competent and self-responsible and learn how the bar legal system operates, learn what the true rule of law is, and to work together to form communities based on the Ukadian model. So we can restore, Rita, the true rule of law, justice and our natural rights as the foundation for society. This will help us manifest a new blueprint for humanity as the guardians of this planet. And they ask for you all to please come and join us in 2024. They are working on a schedule for beginners to learn the fundamentals and for more advanced members to take their knowledge further. We will announce the plan in one of the blueprint shows in early 2024 and post in a Universal Law Group based on MeWe. We are also working with the You Think Different team and are thinking about how we can make subjects like law and consent appeal to younger generations so we can attract younger people to THI to support the blueprint as well. We also encourage the THI Community Group, which is an offshoot of the Law Group, to continue the conversations about what it means to be a guardian and how do we build communities of trust. We are also awaiting the completion of a designated website for our Law Group in 2024, which all our material will be placed on that website. And so, if you wish to join us, please private message Roger Isaacs or Michael Blaha on MeWe, or join the Universal Law Communal Gathering on thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. The Youth Team Report. The Youth Team was started in mid-2023 with many ideas, inspiration and energy. And these ideas have developed into content creation to launch the You Think Different website in early 2024, assisted by the media team, the web team and the youth themselves. Our concepts and intentions of the youth space are being well received by the feedback we are getting from the youth, some of which are keen to contribute and join the team. We are seeing more young people recently that think different, act different, and are creating change in their own lives and influencing the lives of the youth in their communities for the better. We have been planting the seeds of change with youth in our field and are now seeing those seeds beginning to grow and blossom as the youth step forward to work with us on the youth space. Now, the youth website name, You Think Different, is getting a great response from the youth, as is the Tell a Vision idea, Tell a Vision, put forward by a youth team member, as we look forward to hearing their visions and solutions for their future and the future of humanity. Build it and they will come, we say, has now grown to be connected and creating together. Many youths are aware change begins within and are taking control of their own lives and future. And connection with youth can be as simple as inspiring conversation, sparking creative curiosity, or a purposeful, engaging post. More and more youth are pursuing their passions and interests, no longer following the status quo, instead leading from love, standing out from the crowd, and sourcing their own personal power through purpose. Creating a meaningful life around things that mean something to them. Young people and those young at heart know that play is purpose, and if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That all work and no play leads to a dull life and spirit. Some of the Youth Team 2023 achievements and aligned actions completed or in completion phase. Starting the Youth Team MeWe group, regular team meetings, reports for the blueprint shows, creating the youth space name and purchasing the youth website domain name, intentions and mission statements for the youth space, concepts and ideas, insightful, inspiring and energizing conversations at the meetings, cultivating connections and communications with youth, seeking feedback from the youth, youth-aligned blueprint action questions and content creation, researching current youth trends and interests, You Think Different anthem song writing and recording, You Think Different Spotify playlist, a parent and teacher's guide, editing and drafting to be later utilised on the parent site, Parenting, THI again, Different, and redrafting youth versions of the Divine Masculine and Feminine, and also the consent booklets. Now, my report on the law and the You Think Different reports is what a fantastic body of work is developing on those two important fronts and pointers. The law has kicked on into a new gear with the guidance of Roger, and people are tuning into it and getting more out of it, particularly their own personal responsibility. Personal responsibility lessens the need for law, and that is a goal we would all like to see. People need to understand that we are the law, and the reason for the overpowering authoritarian law that has gone too far. It has gone too far because we the people and the system have not acted responsibly enough. And we can all change that, and I suspect our law team will play a vital role in the full disclosure, full disclaimer being rolled out. Law is simple. Only the Zionist and the Talmudic law complicate things. As a species, we all need to first understand and then act within the golden rule, as one must have the golden rule to walk the golden path. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Thou shalt not steal, injure, harm or murder. It cannot get any simpler. The Youth Think team has made giant strides despite their small numbers, all led by Katie, in assessing the ideas, the content and recognising the need for our youth to be taught in better ways. They have developed a manifesto or blueprint already with the vision to take it forward into the new year. Now I envision them linking up with the school curriculum team and a body of information of the past and then carrying that forward. Both the law and the Youth Think can expect a website to develop in 2024, and I'm asking for more people to step up and get involved in the law, youth and the administering of the websites. We get by with a little help from our friends, and this show is all about people helping each other out. The media team report. Now the media team came together in January after a call was put out for members to help form several teams, one of them being the media team, with the aim of getting the blueprint message out. 4 people came forward at that time, and we began the task of putting together our strategy and structure that would work for the team, but also represent the goals we had listed in our strategy. We also have a 5th member that works quietly in the background, making wonderful videos and stepping in to aid the team, plus to learn how to use apps to make the memes and videos, as many of us were not trained in any way. And it's a fantastic asset that we have and are grateful. The learning curve was vast and also rapid. It required much patience. Well, I never. The P word that no one likes. The real P word that no one likes anyway. Much patience and errors that needed correction along the way. But with gentle words and kind assistance from this member, we finally got a good plan of action and structure that helped reduce the work and protect the team in the process. We decided to open our first social media site, Telegram, in February. The handle is t.me/thi_show, as this allowed us to make memes and videos not only for the blueprint, but we could also cover THI shows and the website, the books From His Story to Our Story, the Blueprint book and the website, plus the People's Club. And we had begun the process of being seen outside the safety and comfort that THI had kept us in, and we were in for quite a ride. Now, although daunting and even challenging at times, we began to grow together in companionship and became allies with each other, encouraging the group to create their own stamp on memes and videos, which gave us very different varieties of content. And the talent and creativity from these team members was a joy to behold. The stream of content grew daily, and soon we needed somewhere else to store the content, as MeWe is limited. The web team were able to help us out with this, and now we are confident that we had a safe place with greater storage, so it's one less issue to worry about. Next, we put out a call for anyone with Twitter experience to come and work with us, and then the Blueprint Twitter account and THI account was created with the help and management of another brave member in April. We now had plenty of content to spread across the various platforms. The Blueprint account's aim was to share our solutions and help us spread not only the website but the content in the solutions. And the handle for this account is @NewBlueprintForHumanity. We also paid for the blue tick hoping it would help us reach and gain a bigger platform and presence on Twitter. The THI Twitter account would spread Thomas's messages from the shows and the books From His Story to Our Story, and now we also had a blueprint book to promote. And the THI Twitter handle is at THI_show.com. .com. And this member brings great value to the team, and suddenly we had 3 accounts on the go. Tik Tok was next. Yeah, that was for the clans. Oh no, it was for THI. Now, Tik Tok was next, as we were hoping to reach a younger audience, which would help us promote the youth website when it comes into being. Now, in the meantime, it has been used to reach a different audience and spread our message wider. And I can say with certainty this platform was a challenge and held a wee bit of fear in the beginning. It is a very diverse platform with fast-moving content and many creators of many genres. A small hurdle, but it now has become part of the daily routine, and nothing ventured, nothing gained was the motto. And the handle for that is at THI_show_com. Next came the reopening of the YouTube account, because it was already an established platform and we felt it worthwhile to use it for the blueprint shows. Now, while all shows do get posted there, the main aim is the blueprint shows having a second platform for airing. And you can follow us there at Tommy Williams 3898. And finally, we opened the Instagram accounts, one for the blueprint and one for THI. And we were lucky enough that a member came forward to offer to do this, as with only a small team, it can be time consuming keeping each platform operating 7 days a week. The team is also creating content constantly in the background, and it is a hive of activity daily. Now, the Instagram accounts handles are at Blueprint for Humanity 111 and at THI Show 111. Having another team member share their knowledge of the platform and take on the task was such a blessing that aided the team in many ways. We have had great help with content from another member that is working on the indexing and sending us quotes and excerpts from the show so we can then create the content. And this saves us a lot of time and research to come up with material. As the library of shows are vast, it ensures we will never run out of content. And we are grateful to this member for doing this for us. I think I know which one that is. It's the tiny woman. Even tinier than me. We have other members that are helping with the translation of the memes, which means we can put out the English version with the French, Polish or German or even Bulgarian translated memes, etc. And this is a great way of being inclusive and alternative to other platforms that only use their own language. Being different is something we strive for always. Thinking different may not be the norm in social media, and this can be challenging as we are walking in their world. But our message is different. It is more expansive and will take time to be heard and seen. Having such a diverse library and holding the purpose of working for humanity needs many voices, many ideas and many people. We continue to hold the space for more to come and help us. The rewards come in personal growth and expansion. It pushes us to overcome the pushback of shadow banning and being targeted by the powers that were, as they do not want our message to gain traction and continue to remove posts, shows and limit our reach. But together we make a choice every day to put out our content, our message and our solutions. We will overcome. Growth comes from getting out of your own way and letting go of blocks that lie deep within us all. It is not a race to the finish line, it is a choice. Many of us within the Blueprint and media team have embarked upon a mission, not fully understanding that service to others is truly service to self, and a chance of full integration of all the shadows that were holding you back. Working together provides a unique opportunity to make a difference, to change the concepts and constructs of the cages we found ourselves in. Sometimes the changes come thick and fast, and you may not even notice them. Other times they are slow and deliberate. They are the ones you have seen in yourself, and it can take time to go from a place of confusion to a place of clarity. This then gives you a true choice. Do I persist or do I resist? The media team will persist. We will continue to do what we set out to do, and we will grow stronger by supporting and helping the other. We began with hearing the call, and that call grows stronger each day as our content changes. It reflects our change. It mirrors our confidence, our learning and greater understanding of what is required. Being different requires courage and compassion for the self and the all during the setbacks and the rejoicing in the achievements. Who said one small group of people could not change the world? We say watch us and enjoy the show. Media team report from Alison. Since joining the media team, I have had plenty of opportunity to use my image manipulation software and improve my skills with it. Making memes allows me to indulge my visual creativity side and to play with images and text fonts. By creating the text, it also helps me to think more deeply about the THI and TPC themes, to explore the notion of the people's colours and what the blueprint means to me, to communities, to countries and to the planet as a whole. With reluctance, I expanded my use of social media, but I found that sharing the memes and videos and interacting with other people through their posts has had an influence beyond what I had expected. While not developing friendships per se, I can say that my expressing the values of the Blueprint, THI, TPC and the people's colours is having a positive impact. That increases my certainty that we of THI are truly making change for the benefit of the all. Because of my exposure to the talented people of the team, I've decided to explore audio and video creation as well as memes. And so 2024 will certainly be an interesting year. But I think what inspires me most is the way the members of the media team help and support each other. They have become like family, which makes our bi-weekly meetings special and has helped me to learn to trust others and to trust myself. All in all, it is a win-win-win. The THI TPC All Women's Group is next, and we began bi-monthly Zoom calls in January 2022 due to, I think that may be bi-weekly rather than bi-monthly. Oh well, one or the other. I think it's bi-weekly. Due to the critical need to balance the divine feminine and show the way forward for a new way of thinking and being for all women. And the group's goals are to redefine the feminine, to encourage all participants to go within for their answers, to encourage women to be and embrace the feminine, and to learn to trust themselves and other women. All female members of THI-TPC are welcome, and this group has been stunning and most welcome success. This year we changed our meeting time so that we could accommodate more female members from outside of America, and while sadly we lost one of our beloved members this year to a long illness, we have 8 to 10 regular participants attending each Zoom, all of whom have made very strong and loving bonds with each other across the planet. The commitment to the suggested principles of THI-TPC of caring and sharing, need not greed, plus cooperative, not competitive or comparative, are upheld and embraced by our members, all of which makes these meetings a place of safety, love, warmth and trust. And here is what one of our newest members has to say about her experience. In spring 2023, I started to participate in the women's group from time to time, and later in the year on a more regular basis. It took me a while to tune into the group, and I was happy to listen to what others had to say. After some weeks, I started to be more comfortable with the group and to share more about my own experiences. Everything I had to say was warmly welcomed, and the comments I received often triggered deeper thinking. I had been doing some inner and shadow work for a while and noticed that it helped me to improve my interactions. They had become more pleasant, warm and open. Still, I felt depressed from time to time, and it got worse. So I decided to bring this up in the meeting and shared about it. A member brought forward that this might have to do with cords that were attached to my energy field and of which I was not fully aware. I started to ponder on how that would work with those cords, and during the next meeting asked the questions. I received instructions of how to become aware of the cords, which emotions are involved and connected to whom, plus how to find out which chakra the cords are connected to. And then on to how to remove the cords by extracting them from the energy field and sending them back to source. I was told to thank the one the cord was connected to and send him or her love energy. I further was told to undo any contracts with those people based on competition, jealousy or any other negative emotions. So I sat down to research for those cords and contracts. I found them and did as described above. And since I worked on my cords, my depression is gone. I feel more comfortable with myself, and this allows me to grow onto another level. I would like to encourage everybody who feels down or even depressed without any obvious reason to check on possible cords and possible contracts that can result from childhood with parents or siblings, but also former partners. It is very important to end those connections willingly, so no energy can be lost on them any longer. I am grateful for all the knowledge, but also the loving environment of the women's group. I am also thankful that we think of and try to support others who cannot attend the meeting but may need some help. Thanks to all our sisters in the group for caring so deeply, reaching out to help others, showing up with courage, commitment and willingness, embracing and integrating the higher frequencies we have come to recognise. Our sisterhood has never been stronger and healthier. and we welcome all female members of THI to join us on our path to make the world a much better place for us all. My report on the media team and women's group. The media team, despite only starting this year, has made enormous strides with Susan and her team. As they said, they were learning new things along the way and yet still produce the rich and diverse content we have all witnessed. And this should be an inspiration to you all of how you can overcome your own limitations and develop yourself, all whilst aiding others. Alison herself has come a long way this past year personally, in my opinion. The shy and retiring Alison has given way to a more outgoing and hard-working person who is only too willing to get and be involved as much as she can. I could almost say it has given her a sense of purpose. She has shown you all of what can be achieved within and externally with a little bit of self-confidence and a lot of effort. The women's team is great to hear as well, as much effort has been done to erase the many programmes contained within. It is and has been a long process, but also progress has been made, is now bearing fruit. Much of the energy, frequency and revocation work has been done solely for the benefit of the women, and many of you this year have taken that on board and have worked on yourselves to self-correct. This has a knock-on effect for all other women as they see their fellow members developing themselves, and it gives them the confidence to undertake that task as well. There will always be setbacks on the journey, but it is also the time to remember how far you have come as well. Now, after the return of the divine feminine energies and that effort put into that this year, it is pleasing to see so many women striving to be the change within themselves and on a wider scale. We shall overcome, indeed we will. Next is the OHAD report. This is a different piece that gives you insights into the work being done behind the scenes in many ways. And this is more pertinent when the person is Jewish. Given the content within our shows highlights heavily the role of the Jewish in subverting us all. And so I am pleased to add this passage in. A foreword. Being a little dispersed between different things which I may contribute to the collective effort, Ohad said, I took on myself the translation tasks, even though I could have helped with various other tasks, being brain damaged in engineering and interests in many other things, and having a website for myself which renders me somewhat useful for web editing. But the Zoom back in the day raised the need to translate stuff to Hebrew, a lot more so than into Swedish or German, which are spoken languages in our family. The Jewish and the Israelis, we the people, have always been thrown under the bus, and giving the Hebrew-speaking people this content has been identified as fairly important. Why would anyone join this book team, he says. Honestly, I'd rather write my own stuff and or do something more creative, as well as tend to my family, but translation has its pleasures. Translation is wonderful, as it is the dance with words, be it Hebrew, Swedish or German. It brings you into the expressions, the heart of the matter, knowing the language on a different level by coming to an understanding of the expressions and choosing the right synonyms. I have had to take on me also, a good share of formatting for publishing, which is a whole different ballgame for right-to-left languages. So what has been done? Formatting and reformatting of From His Story to Our Story, Volume 1, Hebrew edition. Translation of the blueprint to Hebrew, the letters to the influences and some memes. Generated DeepL automatic translation of From His Story, Volume 1 and 2 to several languages. DeepL translation of the blueprint to several languages. Started proofreading of the blueprint Swedish translation and reformatting of the Hebrew blueprint PDF. What has the learning curve been? Formatting with Word, LibreOffice, OpenOffice, working with EPUB format and using several EPUB editors, especially Calibra. Generate PDF and EPUB with Adobe, Abby and other conversion tools also online. And he said, I know I'm doing something important and it gives me satisfaction to know that we are the ambassadors of real knowledge, progress and treading forward in our collective development. So, is it fun? Sure. Could I do something else? You bet. But the feeling of doing something fairly simple to me, yet a powerful contribution to the people, is perhaps what motivates me the most. Next is the web team report. Around 2022, the web team had a changing of the guard moment. The old members of the web team parted ways with THI, and an unlikely pair of safe hands took the helm. We'll call him Captain Obvious, who, despite a background in IT, had no prior experience of web publishing or web administration. And he says a big thank you goes out to the previous web team, particularly Nick and Kelly, for their help with the handover and awareness of existing web processes, and also to Carl for his in-depth technical knowledge about the entire THI IT infrastructure, how it works and how it interconnects. The monthly and also the ad hoc remote sessions with Carl were priceless for the smooth transition and also to bring the new administrator up to speed as quickly as possible. And so a big thank you to the previous web team for all their hard work and help. And I agree. It becomes obvious, captain or otherwise, rather quickly, that the new administrator was swimming in deeper waters than expected, and that despite learning quickly, this was not quick enough to fulfill the various web tasks needed to keep THI on the digital road. However, the intent to step up and the help offered to Thomas in the hour of need was quickly repaid at the beginning of 2023 by the arrival on the scene of the awesome Aris, a web developer by profession and the man with all the technical answers for the team. Now, at the weekly web team meetings which followed from that point on, we reviewed and learned together about existing THI web processes, such as publishing the THI shows and looking after the various elements of the digital infrastructure hosting the THI websites. It was a good start to the year because it meant the new two-strong team could keep on top of routine web tasks and also develop new initiatives and improvements. Around early February, the web team was tasked to design and build the website for the new blueprint for humanity. The technical design and look and feel of the website were quickly put together and highlighted what was going to be the main challenge for delivering a great website which speaks to people's hearts. It was image selection for the 29 solutions and the website overall. Now, a number of people helped with this project, such as Stephen, Salim, Roger and Thomas. Brainstorming sessions and attempts to select royalty-free images led us to the idea that the images have to speak to the solutions presented, not the problems they address. The problems often denote dark and sad aspects of reality and life on this planet, and so the chosen images had to convey the exact opposite. The ray of light and hope the presented solutions and us can bring. It was easier said than done. However, with expert guidance from Salim, the project team defined keywords and tags to aid in the search for suitable images, and after many hours of selecting candidate images and actual image selection, a set of vivid and striking images were identified. The other important success factor in building the Blueprint website was the give and take between the people involved. We each had our preferences and were passionate about them. We had our favourite images or ideas, yet with voting and debates about the best choices, we gave in here and there, acknowledging the other's better choices at times, and so harmony was the order of the day. We each found strength to at times give up, say, our favourite image for a particular solution, and with this approach the final set of images was chosen. Of course, there were instances where we had to go one step further and actually go with Thomas's image selections, which were totally different to what we had come up with. But then remembering the idea about the images needing to speak to the solution, not the problem. Not surprisingly, Thomas's choices gave a completely different perspective on things, and the group's overall conclusion was that we had identified an even better choice. At the 11th hour, Marnie helped us with much needed access to set up PayPal donations on the website, and so the new Blueprint for Humanity website was launched on Saturday, March 25th. The feedback we received is overwhelmingly positive, both in terms of the website being easy to use and also user-friendly on smart devices. The images which complement the content of the Blueprint document, unique and groundbreaking as it is, have achieved their intended goal to touch people's hearts. Now, after a quick break and well-deserved rest, work continued with the building of the gardening website to showcase the wealth of information collated by the gardening team. And once again, building the website was all in a day's work for our lead web developer. The people who stepped up to the data input challenge and did great work were Bridget, Susan, Nick and Rich. Rebecca, Glenn and others from the gardening team helped put the nice final touches to the new website called theorganicliving.thenewblueprintforhumanity.org, which was launched on November 23rd. And he wants to say thank you to all for your help and contribution. Dave joined the web team around May time and is making a big contribution to the creation of the new and improved THI archive, which we call the Encyclopedia. Dave has contributed many hours of careful data input, which is needed for the cool web interface that was designed by Aris to create the new user-friendly encyclopedia, which will allow those interested to listen and read the transcripts at the same time on the same web page. Stephen has also contributed to this project, and so thank you to all involved for your time and dedication. We expect to complete this project very soon. Now, a prerequisite for the THI Encyclopedia has been the show topics and information which the indexing team have put together, particularly Holly and Kyoko. The indexing and web teams work together to align the output from the indexing exercise with the requirements for the THI Encyclopedia project. And we congratulate and thank the indexing team for their great work indexing the THI back catalogue. One challenge we have found in our work is that there is no shortage of great ideas, but we do have limited manpower. So when we got the idea to create a best of THI moments list for members to vote on, and the top 9 to be announced on the 10-year anniversary of THI and Cosmic Voice Zoom, which took place on Sunday, July 30th, we knew we had our work cut out for us. The members came up with great suggestions for the best of THI pieces, and a sleek technical solution to present and vote on these was created. Now, on top of being a great initiative to mark the occasion, this exercise was also a great review of THI material, a selection of the most empowering, inspiring and hard-hitting THI pieces, and we know there are many. And as I'm sure you guys remember, despite the best efforts to keep the winning piece from Thomas and only announce it on the Zoom, but to prove his direct connection to universal consciousness without knowing, Thomas then made reference to the number 1 piece in his Zoom opening remarks. Oops. We should have expected that, really. So seeing this happen organically was another unique aspect of that anniversary. And in case you are wondering, the best of THI moment for 2023, as voted for by our members, was If You Lead Life in Love and Care piece. Another cool technical idea we implemented was the creation of the THI show timelines, a complete listing of the original must-listen-to shows, as well as many other powerful shows and series, such as the From His Story to Our Story Plus, the Expose series, and of course the 3 Blueprint shows. And these show timelines are the complete THI playlist of shows, and will be further updated to bringing them in line with the THI Encyclopedia once this website is launched officially. Now you can find the THI show timelines at tinyurl.com/THI-show-timelines. In recent months, we worked with the Blueprint research team and facilitated the sending of a few tens of emails with information about us and the new Blueprint for Humanity to carefully selected influencers and politicians, asking them to join us in making this world a better place. And the technical challenge which needed an answer here was warming up the email domain for the Blueprint website to ensure that our emails met the latest and most stringent email security standards, and thus ensuring they are delivered to the inboxes of the intended recipients. Now, there were a few technical challenges and victories which we won't mention, but needless to say, they satisfied the analytical, problem-solving minds of those involved, the inner geek, if you will. There were mistakes too, private and public ones, but as we can't turn the hands of time, one can only go forward and hope to mend what has not been mended. On a personal note, Captain Obvious would like to say a big thank you for the opportunity and trust placed in him, and I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Aris for his help and support, but most importantly for the priceless work, relationship and friendship we have developed. I have worked and work well with many people in a professional environment, but there are a few with whom I've worked so harmoniously, and where we complement each other so well in terms of both technical ability but also ideas and creativity. Still, on a personal note, they say that only those who do nothing make no mistakes. And whilst I don't say this as an excuse, I will say to those I let down or upset that I'm sorry. I should have known better, but didn't, and or my tendency to be service to others before I'm enough service to self got the better of me. I shall focus on the areas that still need work to have a more solid foundation for service to others. Which leads me nicely into the final thought, which is that the web team would very much like to expand and welcome new members, women in particular, because we feel that given the creativity and work delivered in the last 12 to 15 months by a team exclusively made up of men, and we are excited at the prospect of having both men and women get their creative juices going and working together. The creativity and work delivered will be even better. And so join us. My report on Ohad and the web team. Ohad, like Alison previously and many others, quickly saw the evidence of coming together, inadvertently helped the self as well. The shows have been harsh on him and also William, two of our Jewish members. It is never easy hearing harsh things about your own labels, more so from a Jewish perspective. The sheer depth of the Jewish problem had to be exposed on a mass scale to get people to see who are the greatest problem and threat to humanity. And hearing show after show about the Jewish problem whilst being Jewish yourself has been a painful lesson, I'm sure. But Ohad and William stuck around, and now they are going on to spreading the information on a wider scale whilst trying to get their own communities to see how they are all being played. My heart goes out to you both, and I hope you continue both with the work and progressing within the self. The web team, as you can see from the report, has had a bigger, more arduous dance within the TPC THI fold, so to speak. And again, the theme is about learning along the way, all whilst trying to develop the self in the meantime. Extraordinary progress has been made by the web team this year, despite testing circumstances due to the speed of the developments of the other groups. They had to embrace it all, and yet have still delivered THI websites of which we can all be proud of. And so a special thanks to Ovi and Aris and also Dave for the sterling work, and one hopes your goals of introducing more to the web team is accomplished, perhaps regardless of gender. Right, we're on to the research team report next. And 7 brave volunteers formed the Blueprint research team on April 20th, 2023. And our mission was to review 14 months of THI shows from March 2022 to April 2023. And we were to glean the names of influencers mentioned in each of the shows. The springboard idea was to have a database of contact information for each of them by the book launch date of July 4th this year. And a book would be mailed or vetted to and prioritised influencers, or a PDF would then be sent by email. Now, some would be followed and or contacted on social media also. And by June 15th, 335 names have been found in the shows, and MeWe chat members had suggested an additional 50 names. And we were thrilled that the list proved useful when on July 2nd this year, the first books of the blueprint were mailed out. Now, before the PDFs could be emailed from the blueprint website, mutual efforts between the web team and our research team were required. The mechanics of the sending and receiving feedback were managed by the web team, and the research team created the email letter templates, and members translated it into other languages as well. A month later, on August 2nd, the Excel spreadsheet we refer to as the database was filled in with all 335 names. It formatted to contain a variety of other data that needed to be found and formulated for creating various reports. Members kept suggesting other names to be researched, and by the middle of September there were 447 names, and the database or spreadsheet had 26 columns to fill in. Now, we were equally thrilled on October the 9th when the first set of emails with the PDFs was sent from the website. Another delight came on October 29th when the first country of France was also sent to. A sprinkling of PDFs has also been sent to the United Kingdom, Canada, Romania and Jordan, and we hope to send them to Bulgaria and Germany soon. In November came a welcome collaboration with a new team from the Common Sense group. They were challenged to volunteer for at least 1 hour per week, and one of their members reached out to assist our research team with filling in the database information gaps. Now, seeing the size of the project, she then organised more volunteers to help speed up the process, and we greatly appreciate their ongoing assistance. Now, in December of 2023, there are 517 names. Multiply that by the 26 columns, and you have an unfinished 13,442 piece ongoing expandable puzzle. And completing it is easier said than done. We have calculated that it will take a maximum of 500 hours of volunteer time to complete the database puzzle. And we only have mailing addresses for 101, email addresses for 90, 70 people with at least one social media presence, and 4 countries outside of America. We also have names of organisations and must search for the leaders' names as well, and eventually we will know the city, state and country for each person. We have identified 85 mainstream media and found at least their phone numbers and general email addresses to add to the database. As per request of an admin, the book sender, at our December 10th meeting, we chose 20 of those media to send books to this month. As of this report, the mailing addresses are still being acquired, and it will be our last project of the year. We were curious about how to analyse the Blueprint book success. Our web team liaison demonstrated the search engine optimization by searching online for the new blueprint. Usually the top links that show up are paid for by advertisers. And so if you're number 4 in the links, that is an OMG. But anywhere on the first page is awesome. And the results were amazing. The new blueprint for humanity was the OMG number 4 on DuckDuckGo, and the awesome number 10 on the first page of Go Ogle. To further clarify how outstanding that is, consider this. Just typing in the single word blueprint brings up 1 billion plus results. And so to bubble up to the surface of that ocean is an astonishing accomplishment. Because November and December were busy family and holiday travel times for many of our members, the research pace seemed like racing a turtle. It can take from 15 minutes to an hour to find 6 pieces of information for any one influencer. And sometimes it requires the hurry up and wait snail pace process of contacting them via their website if they have one. And we look forward to a reboot and refreshing of efforts in the new year. In conclusion, by December 31st, 143 influencers will have directly received the book or a PDF of it. Many more will have learnt of it because of untold numbers of members are sharing the memes and links to the website. And our team is glad to be part of that sharing. And we want to thank the THI MeWe chat members for their enthusiastic additions to our list. And we are deeply grateful to the help the admins, book, web, media teams, Common Sense volunteers and TPC Europe team that helped grease the wheels of our success. The People's Colours. It started off with high hopes to reach influencers this year. We sent out communication requests to Dane Calloway, Candace Owens and others we discerned to have a significant number of followers. Unfortunately, we did not get a reply from any of them. However, Ms. Owens did make statements that were straight out of our THI shows. And this was encouraging and a clear indication that we are indeed being listened to at the very least. Now, despite the clear disinterest to respond from our targeted influencers, we enjoyed great conversations and sharing of perspectives in our communal gathering group. We are very clear that the frequency released through our efforts has been and is contributing to the unstoppable flow of the liberation of Midgard, as well as in all living on, in and around her. Now, each of the members of the People's Colours communal gathering group have moved on to contribute in the new blueprint for humanity groups. A heartfelt thank you to you all who aided our efforts. My report on the research and people of colour is the research team have made fantastic strides, thanks mainly to the efforts of Debbie or Mama Z and also Michael Blaha. A fairly mammoth and comprehensive task building the database, and then begun the greater task of filling in all the gaps. Slowly but surely things are becoming easier for the team and quicker strides will be made next year. As for the people of colour, a sterling effort was made, but it seems the people of colour are just not ready to hear yet. And this was disappointing from the perspective of those in the people of colour. But it also served a useful purpose that can be used at a later date. The reluctance of the non-whites to not engage us in a meaningful way shows the problems we all face in getting people to engage each other in coming together for a common cause. Eventually they will see the error of their ways and seek out connections due to the escalation of the fall of the old world. The seeds planted this year may well start to grow next year. A village update. The village overcame many hurdles this past year and still lives on, although we did lose one member from the main village, but that member still resides close to here. We added a new member in the vicinity of the village this year, and she has settled in very well. The tractor business has not been as successful as we would have liked, and perhaps that will be better next year. The coffee business sold very well this year, and we hope that progresses in some way next year also. The gardening project did not develop as a village project this year, although 2 members are developing individual gardens currently. Now, discussions have been made about potentially moving the village next year, after some felt Farmington is not the ideal location. And in some ways I get that, but from humble beginnings, larger things grow. Other members have suggested they would move if a more desirable place is found, and so that was also being looked into. Now, a lot of the developments of the village took a backstage this year due to 2 things. A, the blueprint, and B, the 3 trips taken this year for work and other based purposes, all of which were extremely successful. The fruits of which are in the early stages, but will escalate as time moves on. The village on a personal level for those who came here has gone very well for them, with some hooking up in a relationship and others forming very close bonds. And that is what it is all about at the end of the day, people coming together. And we go forward into the new year somewhat undecided as to what will unfold with the village next year, but I suspect and expect the togetherness will remain. We had many visitors this year and all seemed to enjoy it, in particular the energies. The energies or the frequency of the village for those who have experienced it. Most who have been didn't want to leave, and that is a good sign. The People's Club update. The People's Club has made steady progress this year, although general donations have dropped off considerably. Some of the TPC businesses we invested in has borne fruit to balance it out a bit. And I wish to say thank you for all your donations to the TPC on behalf of the directors, Roger, Marnie and Holly. It is much appreciated. 7.5 years on since the TPC was formed by myself, and to date not one director has received any pay out of the work that they do. And that is a true charity, and we manage the funds provided for the benefit of you all. Now, the People's Bank opened a second branch in Farmington this year to add to the original bank in Florida. And when time allows, we will be transferring the account over to Farmington and closing down the Florida account. The beginning bank balance was $33,103. The ending bank balance was $46,639. Donations this year was $11,891. The loan returns was $10,720. The investment returns was $6,873. And other expenses were $6,305. Mainly due to the tractor. Now, investment expenses was $3,313 and loans was $235. The office expenses was $1,056 and the donations sent was $1,969. The filing fees were $786. The bank fees this year were $0. The website fees were $1,786 and the show fees $702. Other assets of value or loans outstanding are $21,000. It is a highly satisfactory report for the TPC, and we will see how we can develop it further into the coming year. But following a review of my time and lifestyle recently, I've decided to put it to the board for me to step down as president of the company and either A, appoint a new board member, or B, close down the People's Club altogether. I've ran the TPC now for nearly 8 years for no pay, and I feel it is time to move on. I will discuss possible compensation for my time running the TPC, but the final decision on that will be up to the board of directors and also a group of members. Discussions with members recently have brought up some exciting possibilities coming in the new year. And it is already agreed with the book team that the whole Rus, Aegon, Slavic, Vedic and Santis shows and pieces will all be combined, edited and all the other stages it goes through to create volume 4 of From His Story to Our Story, and potentially volume 5 as well, as I don't know when this series will end currently. But a new idea came forward recently of another set of books being a potential doer next year as well. And off the top of my head, the series could be called Empowerment and Life or something else. But I'm thinking of combining all the pieces that I did at the end of the Blueprint shows of what is love, life, value, human coming together, and the love piece, plus what is real, what is illusion, and what is time. And going into a book for general reading, which can be shown to all members, friends and family. It's not that controversial. And the reason being is, this is about us, and it would have less or none of the so-called conspiracies in it, and potentially be more open to being read. And that would be volume 1 of that series. Volume 2, which I've been promising for the past 2 years nearly, would be the self-empowerment show. Another idea I came up with is to do an audio video of the What Is series. A short version of it for social media, and a longer version of it for YouTube and the thi-show.com platform, with selected excerpts of the series read by several members with added music and graphics. And this format could also be done with the Santis Rus stuff as well. And those are just some of the ideas for next year, but for now we have to focus on spreading the seeds of the blueprint. We weren't born to follow, we were designed to lead. Right, the next section is I like to do anyway, it's a nice reminder of what was said and whether it was borne out or not. And so this is a review of last year's predictions. So what do we have in store for 2023? And I said 2023 will be a very busy and packed year again, as we will build upon what was set up in 22 and previous years. We are currently in a few events. As autumn vanished, is it ultra cold for a reason? Who or what can't stand the cold? And I asked you all to think of a show we did in October. And the second is the volcanoes. Look at the regions they are going off and connect them to our shows, and you will find the pattern and also the reasons. So winter went long and hard last year, and the volcanoes warning was certainly heeded by our members. I said expect more chaos next year, more celebrity die-offs, more COVID die-offs, plus another virus to cover it. COVID will continue to erode and in many cases disappear from the horizon. Apart from the fact people are dying from the consequences of it and will continue to do so next year, possibly with much higher numbers. Although we have received several reports of die-offs, particularly amongst the Native American populace, and 2023 brings in the 2 to 3 years time period of long-standing issues with the jabs, with some doctors expecting this period will bring larger die-offs. Other doctors say 2 to 5 years. And I said there will be much sadness at the plight of people and COVID next year. Try to observe it, not absorb it. Well, we did observe much more chaos, and the celebs have died off more this year, including some very high-profile ones like Rothschilds and Kissingers. Well, thankfully, the COVID mass die-off has not taken place on the scale that was envisioned. Next was, it said, you, unlike many other people, have had time to prepare for it. It is important you stay in control of you this year. It seems now many have found their voice, and dissension against the COVID and the subsequent jabs is bubbling under the surface. And once the high numbers kick in and it's reported in the media, then the expected backlash from the public will unfold, probably in 2023. And that certainly took place this year, although typically the media and the clowns caused the usual distraction with the staged Gaza event. I also said in 2023 this will cause the panic levels of the clowns to increase rapidly next year. Some will flee to their underground bunkers, others in secluded spots in the country. But whether above or below ground, they will not escape justice or the backlash. It will only delay the inevitable. The death of Queen Elizabeth will herald the end of the reign of the royals, not only in the UK, but other countries also. She, like Bush Sr. and the Queen Mother, carried a certain aura, and that was sufficient to keep things in check. But now it will become a free-for-all attack on the remaining royals, and maybe Charles will not reign too long. I also said I'm looking for them to push Harry and he to reveal their sordid past in full detail. There is a reason they are trying to discredit him and Meghan. He, I believe, is not the original Harry, and furthermore, he is not the son of Charles, and he holds all the aces. And we also said maybe one day in 2023 he will play his cards and reveal what they did to Diana and much more. The royals became almost irrelevant in this past year. In fact, they've been irrelevant as public figures of authority since 2013. Harry didn't open his mouth further, but a book certainly revealed quite enough. I said expect an increase in clashes or potential war in Turkey in 2023, and warnings for Belarus, Poland, the Mexican border, Iran and the Eastern countries. The Taiwan issue will also rear its head this year as well. Now all those regions have heightened concerns now, particularly Turkey and their opposition to Israel. I said there would be further erosion of the Jewish elite power structure as more will expose it next year. Expect Netanyahu, the war criminal, to do something evil and radical to turn the tide. No matter what he and his psychopaths do, it will not lead to their promised land, it will hasten their demise. And yes, the most correct predictions this past year, as the Jewish elite power structure is now being exposed more than ever, and Netanyahu, as predicted, would do something evil. I said America will struggle real badly next year as the folly of supporting failed regimes comes home to roost. One day they will have to realise what Kim and I warned them 6 years ago. They are taking America down and towards a third world country. Of course, we have a solution for that. They don't. And yes, America continues to hurtle further towards a third world economy as policies not native to America continue to be pushed forward under the banner of foreign policy. I said monetary issues on government levels will feature prominently this year, more so if they do a stock market crash again. The crypto industry will continue to be diluted and harvested, but be aware a higher level clown trying their own version of the death currency and making it global. Expect further challenges on many governments around the world. A revolving door may be the new policy. Well, all of those three came true except the stock market crash. Although we had a people crash this year instead with their fake tax on the people called inflation. Crypto is and has crashing in various ways, and some government leaders around the world did exit the stage left as predicted. I said the mainstream media will continue to erode and may be forced to covering our narrative more next year to draw back the millions who have fled them. If not, their death rattle will increase. And that did increase on them badly this year, and further erosion predicted. The fact many of their pieces covered now comes from the alt media, and in many cases our show or book augurs well. I mentioned about the reports of people and animals doing bizarre circles, plus a recent video of people being approached by something not in the visible range and then suddenly dying from interacting with it was alarming. The same happened with a lion filmed in the wild. And the extraordinary thing with these people is they all instantly got rigor mortis, some even before they hit the ground. In humans, rigor mortis can occur as soon as 4 hours after death, but this was within seconds. And clearly something was approaching these people, and what is unfolding is difficult to gauge. But the fact that the videos were in Asia and was mixed in with the lion, does that potentially bring an interesting connection? Asia and the Lion of Judah, or indeed the lion serpent, I said. Well, that did quieten down this year, thankfully, but we may see a different type next year. I said there will be potential major breakthroughs for both THI and the TPC this year, and let's work hard to make that happen. Well, the blueprint certainly provided that, but perhaps more so, the From His Story to Our Story series of books this past year has had way more impact on the collective consciousness. I mentioned about other events are connected in many ways, like weather, faulty GPS, volcanoes cleansing, planet and pole moving may bring more inertia, vertigo and dizziness. Observe, not absorb again, I said, and learn to integrate and adjust to the dizziness, all with no fear, please. And many of you have reported the dizziness experienced this past year. I asked you to remember this line as well. Remember the backtoons was within a pyramid structure. As it ends, it tips upside down like an egg timer. The sands of time, and indeed their time, is rapidly running out now. It cannot be stopped. And yes, you all began to understand the concept of no time this past year. I then said as many began to shine their own light in increasing numbers and power this year, the shedding of those that don't resonate at the right frequency will increase in 2023. And that certainly took place. The shedding of friends, partners and work colleagues increased for you all this year, and you retreated to the safety net called THI. The first word I got for 2023 was perseverance. Keep doing whatever you're doing to progress the self and those around you. And that word certainly resonates with the past year, overcoming enormous difficulties within the framework of the group, yet pushing on to create something special that has been revealed earlier this show. I said following the event of last May 2022, I was called upon to end the middle zero of my own one-on-one with the One for this coming period, and that was part of the progression of what we are trying to do here, and to date it has failed. And that is still ongoing as of writing this piece. I mentioned there was a potential for a major event coming near the end of 2023. That was November the 8th and part of the Ashiana Dean material. But I suspect their predictions after 2012 will all fail, through no fault of their own, but due to a change in timeline on January 1st, 2013. I said time will make even less sense next year. Learn to embrace the spiral dance, as within, so without. And yes, time did make less sense this year, and no sooner had the year started, it has ended. But the spiral dance forecast last December is now in full flow following major work events in April and May this year. And we ended that piece last year with an important lesson from here on in. I said what they do in their world is nothing to do with our world, our consciousness, our path, or our way of being. You chose your path and they chose theirs. And the final word for 2023 is growth. Prepare for it and be ready for all event dualities. The growth is what we certainly got this past year, and in the main due to the event dualities that we created, directed and undertook in April and May. I also wish to mention about the presentations done in January, April, May and September, all done by myself, that brought members greater understanding and awareness of what has and is unfolding here. But they were ably supported by 2 presentations done by Kevin that enriched us all. With part 3, which he was never going to do, like ever, then extended into a part 4 and now a part 5 in process for spring next year. A treasure trove of information and knowledge was garnered from them all that allows your brain and thinking patterns to expand and look beyond what we've been told and work stuff out ourselves. But Kevin wasn't the only one going deeper into the ancient knowledge and brought it forward with their own thinking, as Paula, Christina, Simon, Roger and Michael delved deeper as well, particularly in the Vedas knowledge. Lots of others thinking on a much deeper scale pleases me the most. Like I've said all along, it's not about me, but the information. It's not about me being right either, is the information correct is the important aspect of it all. The ability to self-correct is part of the self-mastery that also requires flexibility, not rigidity. Rigidity of the narrative is their realm and their system. A new beginning indeed. This next section may trigger memories, emotions, and a few tears. And this is other events of the past year. As April marked my return to being able to fly after near 7 years of being unable to, due to the connections to the trustee and also in relation to a ceremony that was planned with the tribal people in Australia. April was to be my first trip, a surprising one in many ways, out of the blue trip to Johannesburg, South Africa. I never envisioned ever going to Africa. Well, here I was doing a 22,000 mile round trip by car and several planes. But an interesting event unfolded as the taxi driver who took me to my final destination was highly concerned for me, as there had been many incidents of tourists being attacked. And he nicely waited until I was safe in my destination before leaving. And whilst it is sad those things happen, it was nice the driver warned me of it. So I met a long-time member who wasn't engaged on the chat much and had a fun time, but it ended all too quickly. I was pleasantly surprised at Johannesburg. The place and the people were very nice and courteous, given some of the stories we've all heard. The trip was twofold, a personal one and some work, although the work increased after I arrived, as several downloads revealed a much bigger picture than I imagined. Well, I never, says you all. Now, I covered most of that trip in a show earlier this year, but the highlights were the roost over the Rose Line, a strange diamond-shaped cloud that was a prelude to something later, the Divine Feminine release, and so much more. I was even treated to an appearance of a hooded cobra ready to strike at me, and I was a split second from getting that picture, and then it sloped off into the brush. Zebras, wildebeest, gazelles and other wildlife were also close by as well. But a special thanks to the member who put me up on that trip and also took a major role in the work aspect as well. We are forever grateful to her, but a message to her is beware a slip can become a full fall. Only you have the power to change that visionary outcome that was shown to me. And that trip served as a test run on going on my own on my first flight back, when just 3 weeks later we were off on the next trip involving members of the village and my first trip back to the UK for 7 years. And the first stop was a quaint little town just outside of Glastonbury, and our first ever meeting with members of 8 to 9 European countries. 18 members in total arrived at Glastonbury, and we all had a marvellous time. We did a pulse wave ceremony there, and as part of the groundwork for the next stage, that rocked all who were there. Lots of OMGs, what was that? And it left a lasting memory for all who took part in it. The members were then treated to a diluted but powerful presentation that left many speechless. Some of the members also hilariously were treated to a gin-infested church, and thankfully all survived it. Now the plan was for 5 of the members to go onto the main stage of the work on Tara Hill in Ireland, but a misunderstanding led to a few more going than were intended. And some were puzzled as to why they didn't go. It was because I felt they were not ready for that level of work that firmly resides in the mystery school learning at that time. Now we paid a visit to Stonehenge and I did some minor work there for about 1 to 2 hours, but mainly it was a tour around the site and showing the European members how to see. And we did see. And with that completed, we were off to Ireland and one popular member's hometown. Eventually we managed to get to the hotel after my physical and technological navigator failed me, and we did several loops around the hotel without going into it. But once in Ireland, preparations were then made for the main events of the trip, the Hill of Tara. Those there didn't know what to expect, but 3 who were there before knew fun was about to unfold, as they'd been on the Arizona trip. A walk of the grounds allowed me to point out what people don't see: the king buried there, the divine masculine and feminine path, the markers along the trail, and even a gatekeeper at the entrance. We deliberately avoided the overlay church station there. And so we emerged on the hill and were accompanied by someone familiar to me, a watcher. And she patrolled behind me until I said, "I see you," to much hilarity within the group. And we proceeded with a presentation, a ceremony and an announcement for 2 members who were on the hill. Certain misalignments and energy harvesting techniques were prevented or stopped that day. Certain frequencies were installed that day, and many of you have since begun to experience it. Much more was accomplished that day, but does not need to be revealed. Just an inner knowing what we did and what we had to do. And once more of our story becomes the dominant reality, the events of that day will be known. In many ways, it will be seen as changing his story to our story. And once things were completed and eyes dried out at the sheer emotions of what took place, we headed off for some coffee and light refreshments, plus a series of ponderings for us all. I had one more task and pulled away from the group: the church. That church was a harvesting centre for those who attended the hill, filled with jinns. The jinns were cleared out and the ravens there were tasked to guard the church from further infestation. And all of this was done in the background of the song Hero of the Day by Metallica. And the take-home line for that day was personally, and the collective was, "The window burns to light the way back home." But home is where the heart is, and the heart resided not in a place, but with a person. We left to go to Liverpool, and a surprise birthday greeting from my mother, who nearly had a heart attack, with 2 members plus some Polish hitchhiker we picked up along the way. The hitchhiker stayed behind with my mother and they bonded really well, which is nice to see. On trip 3, taken in September of this year, also was about the work, but also for me to spend more time with my mother. An 11-day trip with 2 days of travelling was split up with 3 days with my mother, 3 days with the members, and the final 3 days with my mother again. And this was an exciting trip that didn't start off personally too well, but I reminded myself this is about us all. And the days with my mother allowed me to show the members staying with me there some of the sights around my hometown. Trips to several windswept beaches, plus a trip to Wales and a visit to a place called Llanrwst, a quaint Welsh town with a river flowing through and some standing stones like Avebury. And it was a place I used to visit as a child. And we then went to a castle in Wales at Conway, and 2 members took delight in perusing the grounds and the inside of the castle whilst I pondered on the shoreline. Other trips in Wales took us to Tulacre, Prestatyn and Rhyl, and we got to see Anglesey from the beach. Another trip we took whilst in Liverpool was to go and see my soccer team, new stadium being built on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey. And they wouldn't allow us in, despite my mother's attempts to convince the security people of how famous I am and that they should let me in because of that. But that's mothers for you. Then with Everton playing on the last day of our trip, we took a trip to the original stadium built in the late 1880s and sampled the atmosphere around the ground. And we then stood outside the stadium to experience the live version of the sirens and the tune which forms the opening to our THI shows. Well, that got me all teary-eyed, hearing that for the first time in 7 years, plus Todd and Amy got to experience it for themselves. Oh wow was the reaction. Now I get it. A 3-day trip to Ireland that involved a total of 25 members was great fun to be a part of, and a great time was had by all. Again, everyone was comfortable with each other despite coming from around 11 different countries, and it was a joy to behold. We had an important presentation on the first night, and also the sight of me all dressed up with pants, shirt and tie brought a few gasps and raised eyebrows. But the presentation laid out some, but not all, the background of previous trips and also the trip back to Tara the following day. Paula did the first presentation and was all about her time in Montsegur, France, and that was very enlightening to us all. I did my speech and was met with many members teary-eyed at the joy of it all, plus then I got swamped with a 25-person group hug. I'm still trying to recover my breath to this day. And so we all trekked off to Tara. Well, not quite all, as 2 members decided to go to an alternative Tara 2.5 hours away in Wexford. Yes, you, Daniel. Daniel will never live that down, and I would have a lot more sympathy for him if he wasn't a red, just saying. His co-driver may not forgive him either, Steve. And so they missed the whole of the Tara event. So 23 took the trip to Tara, and they were shown various things or markers throughout the site. And earlier I mentioned the Ravens Garden, the church, from the May trip. All members got evidence of that upon arrival and also after our visit to the hill. The ravens were all going clockwise around the church in protection mode, and 1 or 2 came to greet us. The church grounds were no longer a problem, after the last visit. Now, we did a ceremony there, reaffirming some things and confirming one other important aspect that brought more tears of joy to the watching group. The standout theme for that day was the wind. And no, it was not Roger and Todd this time, but Mother Nature. I wrote a speech or script for that day, a work-based script that was written 2 weeks before the trip. But as we stood on the hill of Tara, the wind was not just blowing, it was howling, and we could all barely stand up. Natives there say they've never experienced wind like that ever. Whilst it was strong and forceful, it was not threatening in any way. But this line from the speech perhaps foretold of what was to come. And I said, as you gather here today, take in the frequencies here. For those who were here previously, tune in and feel the emotions of that day. For those not, feel the vibrations rippling through their bodies. Form a circle and feel into it. Remember what you are told during this time and hold on to your message. Remember what you feel in this space and take it with you. And this next piece was the key line. Hear the voices echoing through the valley, sent downwind as echoes of the past, renewed and birthed into the now. Remove their pain and replace it with joy. All members were in awe, some speechless as to what had just unfolded, some crying more tears of joy. An emotional outpouring that will live in the memories for all who were there. The frequencies were off the charts and many went into a huddle whilst I completed the proceedings off to the side. Perhaps you will all remember this song. Have you all wiped away the tears yet? Final piece tonight. Part 3 will be on Tuesday. So what did this year bring the Tiny Show host? Who, me? Me? Yes, you is the cry. Nothing. I just sat at my desk the whole year minding my own business and smoking cigars. But a year of planting the seeds. The full harvest is yet to come, but internally it already has. A year of extraordinary growth of the group, the websites, the communal gatherings, the presentations, the blueprint, and also the other work you've just heard. Where THI inserted itself into their algorithms despite their blocking and banning and little to no advertising. An extraordinary achievement that is testament to all who gave their effort for a greater cause. And now I feel that many of you are beginning to really get what THI is doing and a sense of real purpose is developing. I look back upon this year work-wise as a year of cohesiveness, extraordinary development, massive growth on the work front, despite it being a testing, difficult and somewhat harsh year for me on a personal level. But the work is what it's all about, and it's pleasing to see many of you are now buying into it. And whilst the growth on an external level is self-evident by this and other shows, one must remind you all to take stock of what you have all done on an internal level this year. The progress of many of you is a source of pay it forward to me, and it gives me the hope that you will all have the conviction to keep going and to see it all through. I'm at a personal crossroads at this time, and next year may well bring the fruits of all the labour I've put in with your support. Where I will be at the end of the year is anybody's guess at this point, as with a flying ban over the world, with the flying ban over, the world is now my oyster. And where and how that takes me depends on a decision and my ponderings coming up before the end of the year. As of writing this, that then defines my future path forward. At the end of the day, it was never about me, it was about you all along. I'm just the tiny man, remember, who did his best to trigger and cajole you into being better people. The work will kick into a higher gear in the coming year, and I'm hoping you will all carry that on and forward, as you have all been given the tools to do so now. Keep shining, keep progressing, keep marching forward, and keep supporting each other. You are all you have. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.